very big family, 4 older brothers and sisters, and my mom had a limited budget but unlimited style and really wanted to create a chic home and on a very, very small budget. And so she would pile us all in the car, and as the kids got old enough to say no, the rest of them did. And I was still the baby and sort of by default became her partner in crime, you know, and it became this really beloved ritual that to this day we look forward to doing together, where I can distinctly remember on a Friday evening sitting with her and looking at the newspaper, you know, before we could go online and go to, you know, statesales.net, and circling the sales that looked really juicy, and then having a map out and navigating what would get us to the most sales the quickest and which one should we hit first. And it really became an adventure, and I think that's what stoked my passion, is the adventure of the hunt and the whole idea of a treasure hunt. And she was very smart, because obviously she needed to buy time with me, who, you know, at 4 and 5 years old had a limited attention span, which still exists. But I would be given $1 or $2, and she would tell me to find something that intrigued me, and I started collecting little porcelain Snoopy ornaments, and lo and behold, those, I still have them. I probably have 30 of them, and they're from the 60s and 70s, and they're actually quite valuable, and I would pay $0.25 for one, but it was so fun to go out and to see that you can, you know, find what you're looking for. But also I would watch her, and I can remember asking her growing up, what are you looking for? And she would say, well, I'm looking for a dining table, but who knows what I'll find. And I thought that was just a really great way to be open-minded, and that's sort of my approach to interior design. I always have a plan, but I'm open-minded, and I also hope that whomever I'm working with as well. So
when you go out and you're working for a client, and you go to these flea markets or yard sales, do you have specifics in mind? Or are you just really there kind of with specifics like you just said, but really looking at everything? And if you do you buy the stuff and keep it for yourself for later projects?
Well, I do. I buy things that are incredible. You know, when you see a treasure at a estate sale or a flea market or a thrift shop, you know, either snap it up or it's gone for good. You know, that's the fun of it. And you know, I don't have to go to only those shops, and I'm an antique dealer as well, and I love mixing high-end and low-end. But the reason I like to incorporate these finds, I think, is just because it's innately my passion, but I also really do believe that you can get, and I think most of you would agree, you can create a truly one-of-a-kind room with these one-of-a-kind finds. And therein lies the rub. If you're at a flea market, you may be looking for a great pair of bergère chairs, but then all of a sudden there's this fabulous faux bamboo 1940s mirror. Not necessarily on the list for that client, but I cannot walk away from it. So 2 storage units later, if I don't use it for them and I don't use it for me, I guarantee I will use it somewhere down the road, or that's what I keep telling my husband.
So what do you do with these finds? Is part of the show you looking for these pieces and redoing it?
I wish it was me. I would win. But no, I actually came up with the concept for the show. We share a dear friend. Yeah, it's a design competition. Yeah, my producing partner is a dear friend of ours, and that's how we met. But I was telling him when I first moved out to LA about this idea I had for a show, and it was really honestly what I do, and again, I know I've talked to many of you before, I know it's what you all do, so I know I'm not reinventing the wheel. It's just I thought it was crazy that nobody on HGTV was tapping into this realm of going to a flea market, finding great things, fixing them up, and then selling them, flipping them. That's what I do. That's what I've done for years and years. And the irony is, every once in a while, maybe once a year, I'll take a load up to the elephant's trunk, because we all have those purchases that are, you know, you thought you could turn that duckling into a swan, and it just wasn't meant to be. And so I'll get a table going and just try to recoup what I can. I never really care, because it's just fun. But I can't tell you how many times I've gone up there before the sun is up, set up my table, and dealers are buying it with flashlights, and then I'll finally go and take a walk around, and there's my thing on their table for twice the price. And I'm fine with that, because I made my money back, they're now making, and so I was like, this is amazing, and imagine if you put a little TLC or your own design spin on it. So therein, that became the concept of the show. 2 teams, each given $500, which can go a long way at a flea market if you have a good eye and you're inventive. They have 1 hour. to find 3 projects. We give them the guidelines very loose for 3 projects. Then they have 1 day with our craftsmen, who are tremendous, to reinvent them as they see fit. And that's been the really fun part of the show, because there are some really not so great things and some really amazing. I've learned so much and gotten so many great ideas. And then the following week, they go out to a different flea market and they have to sell them. And the team that makes the bigger profit wins $5,000, which again goes a really long way at a flea market.
That's a great idea. Do you actually, are you a crafty person? Do you actually rub?
No, I'm like the un-Martha Stewart.
Okay.
And I love Martha. She's an inspiration to me. I'm just not, that's not where my strength is. I'm really good, I'm a really good shopper, thanks Mom. I have a really good eye. I can definitely, I do not judge a book by its cover. I can see beyond the stained fabric and the horrible finish, and I'm very good at spotting good bones. I'm having had experience with Antiques Roadshow and the incredible appraisers.
That was my next question.
Yeah, I have a good
eye.
So
let's talk about 2 years on Antiques Roadshow. What did you learn from that?
Oh my gosh.
And who did you meet from that?
Well, I stalked the Kino brothers. I mean, from the minute I got there, I became I called myself the third Kino, that I was their long-lost triplet sister. And we became dear friends personally, and I would just grill them, and I would hang out by, I love American folk art. That's one, I love the sculpture of it, I love the history of it, I love how primitive it is. That's one of my areas that I collect. So I would sit by their table, which was fine American, that's their specialty, and then Alan Katz, who's an incredible Americana dealer, and I would just listen. I'd get done with my stand-ups as quickly as I could, and then I would sit. Like you would think, I was a kid in a candy store, and I would, as soon as they were done, I would ask a million more questions. And so I just learned how to identify simple woods, how to identify a piece that's machine-made versus handmade, how to, the simple things about dovetailing and things not to do, like, stripping off a painted finish on a 19th century piece. Right. Not a good idea, and I've seen one too many people come into Antiques Roadshow and be like, but it's dovetailed, I can tell, the grandfather clock, painted face, I looked it up, it's for sure 1830s, and they're like, yeah, and it's worth like $200 now, because that faux grain finish, you stripped. And so that's also been that was a great lesson in what not to do. Yeah.
Right.
First real job was Kathy Griffin.
Kathy Griffin,
like, 10,000 square foot house.
So we're going to start with this house. So tell me how you found the house.
I didn't find the house.
No. Tell me, when you walked into the house, what did you think of the house?
I thought it needed assistance.
Yeah. And
she knew that.
How much freedom did she give you?
She gave me a lot of freedom, but a very, very small budget. Okay. So, and that's, and she was like, I love this idea. She's like, don't ask me to go to one with you. I actually made the mistake of bringing her to an estate sale, and she was so funny. She has 0 filter. But it came to me because we were friends, and I lived in LA, and I had just gutted my house, and we live in the Truesdale section of Beverly Hills, so it was 1960s, really cool steel and glass, and I went totally opposite what I did up in Connecticut, because I think it's fun to just, push yourself. And she came over for lunch one day, and before she pulled out of the driveway after lunch, there was a note saying, will you decorate my house and better not say no? And like, I was like afraid. Wow. But there was a bunch of things going on, and she was like, look, I have a huge house, and I do not want to spend more than X, and it was very,
I know.
Cringe.
Yeah.
At the
no, not necessarily. I've done it before.
But for me, I knew that if I went to the Rose Bowl, and there's a million great thrift shops, and I knew I could do it. I just said, I may not be able to do every room, but because I don't want to do one room halfway.
Was there construction involved? Did you have to rip out stuff?
Yeah, well, I gutted her living room. Had this like space age weird fireplace.
I had been to that house before. It was really, very weird.
It was like Tex-Mex meets. I don't even know what to say. And she knew it. That's how she bought the house. It's not her forte. And she said, like, I don't know where to begin. She big giant furniture. She wanted color, and she wanted it to be very lean and mean. She doesn't like tchotchkes. She doesn't like stuff. So that made it really kind of easy, and she told me the colors, and I said to her, why don't you start by going through your favorite design magazines and design books,
right.
Go buy like 5, and I gave her some suggestions of designers who I really look up to, and she just flagged pages and gave me a stack, and she was like, I don't even know what this means, this is just what spoke to me. But I could see, and this is advice I often give to people who are intimidated by interior design is that I guarantee you, if you do that, you'll start to see a pattern. You'll see there's a method to the madness, and I started seeing recurring themes and recurring pieces, and so through sort of being an investigative reporter, right. I was able to determine that she wanted what she couldn't articulate, which was very clean, very modern, fun, and...
Well, it's definitely fun. And
yeah.
I want you to go through this picture, for instance. Tell me, what did you find? Flea market? What did you find?
Oh God, there's so many good stories. I love that mirror. I found that at the Rose Bowl, and we always joke that it's like at a store where there's a camera behind it. But I love it. It's just really fun. It was one of a kind. I think it was $90 at the Rose Bowl. And the chairs were from the Melrose Trading Post. They just had great 50s Madman lines. And they were $85 for the pair, and she has 3 dogs, so I recovered them in that really fun citrine, and I did an all-leather fabric and outdoor fabric. So because her dogs she lets her dogs on everything, so completely wipeable.
Oh, the floors, something you put in?
Yeah, we did. I did the floors.
Yeah,
I did their terrazzo.
The pink chair?
The pink chair is Home Goods. Ooh, go Home Goods. that was at the end, and we were getting it photographed. You just need like little pops here and there, and I highly recommend Home Goods for those little last accent pieces. Yeah, I'm not a snob about it, and I really.
No, it's the best way to design.
I'll show you. This was a huge. I love that house. This was a huge conundrum. This is her dining table, which was. She really loved it because she had great memories, but it was tough. It had these giant, weird pillars, and it was, and the top was like sort of a seafoam green, like sea glass. But it was this big oval, and she had all these memories, and I'm a huge fan of use what you have. And so what we did was I called around to glass stores until I could find one that would agree to just to cut a giant piece of mirror to cover it, to cover the sea glass. Well, I just think it's a really cheap and cheerful trick. And then she wanted those light fixtures, and sometimes I think you all would agree, if a client loves something, make it work, because it's not you who's living there. And so I just tried to really, these were her chairs, and I was like, you don't always have to have 12 chairs around the table. You can actually put some in the corner. No, I always, she's constantly she always has writers over and is writing her comedy, and she has this huge troupe of comedy friends, and she, that's the way she wanted it, so that's the way.
So it's a functional house.
Yeah, but like these little gems, that was like $40 at a thrift shop, and this fun little bar cart was, $30, and those are the pieces that are just really special and sweet, and they're one of a kind, and when you're on a budget, you can go to, and by the way, if I didn't use them for her, I would have cleaned them up and put them in my shop, because they were really chic.